This is one of the most, if not the most important aspect of the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is, in the history of humanity, one of the most unique incidents. Nothing like this has ever occurred and shall ever occur. Imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. Open your eyes of imagination. 1450 years ago, 10,000 companions are descending upon the mountains of Makkah al-Mukarramah. They are armed. You can hear the trembling of horses, the families, the children, the women, the men of Mecca, the non-Muslims. They are afraid and trembling and shaking. O people of Quraysh, what do you think I will do with you? This is one of the most, if not the most important aspect of the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is, in the history of humanity, one of the most unique incidents. Nothing like this has ever occurred and shall ever occur. I am a student of international relations and history, and I do not find an example of this stature. Let us continue the Seerah. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ, eventually, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was given safety in Uhud. He retreated to a cave. The companions were saved. Then the battle of Khandaq occurred. And there the Muslims overwhelmed the enemy. And then a few years later, the Meccans said, we want peace. When the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he came for pilgrimage, the Meccans stopped the Holy Prophet ﷺ at a place called Hudaybiyah, outside of Makkah al-Mukarramah. And without going into details, a treaty was signed, a diplomatic agreement. And the terms of that diplomatic agreement were more favorable to the enemies than the Muslims, which shocked the Muslims and companions, and they were appalled and very saddened. And then al-Mu'mineen said, Ya Rasulullah, don't worry. You go out and you shave your head, and when they see your blessed hair falling onto the ground, their emotions, their sadness will be completely relieved, and they will revive their love and obedience for you. One of the points of that treaty was that there will be peace between Muslims and the Meccans for 10 years. And this was absolute peace, meaning if one side breaches in any form, for instance, if you kill someone from the other side, if you attack them, or worst case scenario, if you wage a war, then the treaty is null and void, which means then both sides can now attack each other. What occurred is, after signing the treaty, one of the allies of the Meccans attacked the allies of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the state of Medina. This is very simply put. Now this gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the legal justification to now take back the city of Makkah. This is known in Sirah as the event of Fatah Makkah, the conquest of Makkah. By this time, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has 10,000 companions who have embraced Islam. They are armed, they have swords, they have bows and arrows and shields. The Meccans have now fewer numbers, and they are now afraid, and they are trembling, and they are seeking peace with Rasulullah ﷺ. They sent an emissary, Abu Sufyan, and he does not succeed in seeking another peace because they breached the peace and the Muslims could not trust their word. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ, imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. Open your eyes of imagination. 1450 years ago, 10,000 companions are descending upon the mountains of Makkah al-Mukarramah. They are armed. You can hear the trembling of horses, the families, the children, the women, the men of Mecca, the non-Muslims. They are afraid and trembling and shaking. 22 years they have caused bloodshed against Rasulullah. They have caused violence against Rasulullah. They have oppressed him. They have shed the blood of his family, his friends and his companions. So they know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he comes and takes revenge, it will be justified. They know this could be their last moments. Imagine an individual knowing that within a few moments this is it. That's how afraid they were. But can you imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a mercy for all of humanity? If he saw his enemies afraid that he would pursue them with violence. Is this even a possibility? Can you even imagine? Absolutely not. And this is why when the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he descended with his companions into the haram, the sihr of the Holy Kaaba. He announces, he can see the fear in the face of the companions, of the non-Muslims and the mushrikeen. He looks at them and says, "Oh, beloved members of Makkah and my nation." And he addresses them and says, "Ya ma'ashara Quraysh, O people of Quraysh, ma tarawna anni sani'un bikum." What do you think I will do with you? Now the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you and I know that he will respond with mercy and forgiveness. Of course. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asking the enemies, do you know what I will do with you? And this is how widespread the mercy and the knowledge that his mercy was all-encompassing and absolute had become, that they responded, the enemies, they said, Ya Rasulullah, khayran akhun kareem wabnu akhin kareem. Oh, good, noble brother and son of a noble brother. You know, when you and I are desperate in any matter and we need something from someone, what do? You give a wasta and you say, for the sake of your father who's my friend, or for the sake of your cousin who I worked with, for the sake of your grandfather. They said, "Oh, noble brother and son of a noble brother, we know that you will only deal with us with mercy and goodness." We as the ummah know that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, despite 22 years of their violence, would have responded with mercy. But look how magnificent the mercy of Rasulullah ﷺ, that even the enemies knew that Rasulullah ﷺ would not attack them. And they said, "You will treat us with goodness and kindness." The Holy Prophet ﷺ then said, "Ya ma'ashara Quraysh, no, idhabu fa antum tulaqa. Go, you are all free today. Today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of mercy. Today is the day of forgiveness. Today is the day of kindness." This, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest point in the Seerah of Rasulullah. He is upon the peak of his power, upon the peak of his military authority, and he had the right to take revenge from those who attacked him, committed acts of violence upon him and his companions for 22 years. But he gave up his right to take revenge and said, "Today is a day of general amnesty." And if you compare the history of all civilizations, if you look at the oldest Chinese civilizations, Indian civilizations, if you look at the Greeks, the Macedonians, the Romans, the ancient Egyptians, if you look at nations and civilizations and empires even after Rasulullah, there have been none, if any, cases where a weak party now becomes strong and has the upper hand, now dominates. It was persecuted and oppressed and now has time for revenge, that they gave up revenge. This does not occur. If it occurred in the haram of the Holy Kaaba, from the blessed words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, in reflection of the beautiful sunnah of my brother Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. Just as the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, But they were jealous of him and they threw him down the well, and they told his blessed father, Sayyidina Yaqub, that he has been eaten by a fox. And Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam is now one of the governors of his city in Egypt, and he recognizes his brothers. And when they eventually find out that this is indeed the most beautiful Yusuf, they are afraid, what will our brother Yusuf do? We threw him into a well. We bullied him. We were jealous of him. And upon this, the Holy Quran says, there is no blame upon you today. You are all free. Allah forgives you, and He is the most merciful and beneficent. And in reflection of what Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam did to his brothers, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a much, much greater manner did to his enemies, the kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah. What we learn from this, ladies and gentlemen, is if you are ever in a position of authority and those below you, your juniors, those weaker than you in terms of wealth, money, finances, recognition, authority, if you see in their faces that they want something from you, that they are wishing that you treat them well, or if they have done something to you that you can take action, in that moment stop to think, what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? How did he treat others when he was in a position of authority? Then you and I must remember in 2026 that just as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forgave his enemies, we should forgive anyone that we see. Anyone that must be challenged and held to account, we must show mercy. Anyone below us, anyone above us, anyone we meet in the street, anyone we meet online, anyone we interact with on a day-to-day basis. Respond, act, deal with them with rahmah, with mercy, with love and compassion and a soft heart. This is what we learn from the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.